right, good morning. All right, well, I'll tell you a little story this morning. About 6 o'clock, walking into the building, I open the doors and everything goes like lights, everything. I don't know what I did. It was my ID when I scanned in, I guess. So I know all the power went out in the building. So that means when we walked in here, we had the sound system, we had the TVs, but we had no lights. So we brought the lights in from SGA office. It was going to be BZ Principles in the Dark. It was a new reality TV show. So we were going to do that, but God allowed the lights to come on at about 6:30 when Dan walked in the doors. So I don't know what that is saying. Is I walk in the doors, things break. Dan walks in the door, things fix. So I don't know. The reason why I tell you that story is like there's a lot of things like when I walked in this morning with the power being out, we're going to talk about the concept of total commitment. The idea of that is it would be really easy to get overwhelmed by that. And I'm not going to lie and say that in my brain and in my emotions, like just to myself, I didn't go, are you kidding me? What the heck? But the idea of that is if we're going to do something, if you're going to be committed to something, there will be things that go wrong, like ACLs being torn. Right, my brother? Yeah, so there will be things that happen in your life, and those things cannot deter from your commitment. There will be things that happen in your friendships, and those things cannot deter that friendship because of one thing. In your marriage, in your church involvement. Guess what? Dan and I were just talking about pastors. My dad was a pastor for 40 years, and let me tell you, he wasn't perfect, but if every time that my dad did something wrong, people left the church would be like a revolving door. And I think every pastor is that way. Commitment is not based upon necessarily situations. If it is, it's very fickle. Y'all know what I mean by fickle? It comes and it goes. It's hot, it's cold. And the Bible is very clear about that. Like, don't be lukewarm. That's the problem in our generation, my generation and your generation, the generation when we can pull out our phones and have technology, the generation when we can get on Instagram and we could talk about our emotions and our feelings, is that we negate commitment for comfort. We look at convenience over commitment. So what I want to do today, that was not even anywhere in my presentation notes, but what I want to do today is talk about total commitment. And I think we need to start, why are we talking about these things? Well, we're on the T of Resolute. So Resolute is the process of purposeful action. It's not national treasure, okay, and the Resolute desk and all that. But it is the process of purposeful action going that when I'm in my life, when I'm in my marriage, when I'm in my job, when I'm with my friends, I am going to have a process of purposeful action so that when things get tough and ACLs get torn and cars get wrecked and 15-year-old kids give attitude, or bank accounts don't always work out the way that you want, or wells go out in the middle of the night. I could keep going and going and going. But the whole idea of that is I've gone through a process that will not derail me. It might cause me to go, what the heck? But I want to be resolute in my life. I want to be resolute to my wife. I want her to know that no matter what she does, I'm committed for the long haul. I want John Wood to know no matter what decisions or anything that might happen, I'm resolute on where God has me. Maybe it's not always Cedarville, because I don't think you need to fall in love with an organization and stay there, but you need to be resolute to your commitments. So total commitment, it's the process, or resolute is the process of purposeful action. I also want to do Bravo Zulu because today we're going to really get into where total commitment is. It's providing that extraordinary effort and striving for excellence. That's what it means. It's no perfection in there. Perfection's a myth. It doesn't happen unless you're Jesus. But perfection is a myth. It's the idea of I'm going to give my best at all times, and I'm going to strive for the best that I can give. That's all that I ask of you. And guess what? You're going to walk in sometimes and the lights will go out. You're going to walk in sometimes and somebody that was supposed to do X didn't do X and it affects your job. That's what's going to happen. Welcome to group projects, right? Yeah, you're all like, yeah, hey, I don't know. How many of you like group projects? Are you communication, computer science? Got it, yeah. They like group projects. As a business major, hate it, loathe it, because usually one person does the work and other people, am I right? Yeah, thank you. So the whole idea of that is I want to provide that extraordinary effort and I want to strive for excellence. So what am I trying to say? Here's the comment for today, the two comments that I want to make for you. BZ is total commitment is BZ. So we're going to break that down. And the way you break that down is in the way that I call, and you've heard me say this, it's awareness first, it's buy-in second, it's ownership next. So it's the idea that a lot of times people say, I want to be totally committed to this team or to this project or to this class or to this person. Let me go take ownership of it. But the problem is you can't be resolute, because what happens when things go wrong? Which they do. What happens when things go wrong? You throw your hands up and go, they're not worth it. It's not worth it, because you haven't taken the time to be aware of what that project or who that person really, really is. So let's break this down. Awareness. It's the knowledge of. So when I think of awareness and total commitment, so I'm going to use a couple examples. One of them, it would be in relationships. Other could be in a job. When I think awareness of, when I was getting to know Danielle, when we were dating, she was in Virginia, I was up here in Ohio, emails were starting to become the thing. I know that's how old I am. It was letters. It was like I couldn't wait to get over here to the student center and get a letter. And then I would read the letter. And then I would reread the letter. And I would reread. Yeah, you get it. Okay, the letter. The whole idea of that is I wanted to be aware. I wanted to have a knowledge of what was going on in her life. In my job. If I'm not aware of things that happen outside of campus experience, I'm not serving Cedarville well. So there are times that I rub shoulders, and we all should. I rub shoulders with people that are in residence life, that are in discipleship, that are in the academic. I got a meeting in the academic division. I had a meeting yesterday about commencement. If you're getting to graduate, you will have a graduation. We had those meetings, and it's my job to be aware of who Cedarville is, where Cedarville is going, because if Cedarville is going here and I'm trying to take an event here, I'm not serving the organization. Awareness is the foundation for total commitment. Are you aware of what's going on around you? Are you aware of the who and the why? But can I also challenge you, are you aware of your capacity level? When I was in college and even up to my mid-30s and probably into my 40s, total commitment meant like, man, I'm going to set my hair on fire. That's probably why I'm going bald. I'm going to set my hair on fire and I'm going to do everything. The problem is my capacity meter was probably peaking at 100% most of the time. And when that happens, when the lights go out, you don't have the capacity to be calm. You usually freak out because you're operating at too high of a capacity. Awareness is being aware when it comes to total commitment. What's your capacity and how do I operate below that capacity? So we'll talk about that in like when we get into buy-in. So it's an awareness of. You got to be aware before you can be totally committed. You probably, ladies, don't ever say that you'll go on a date with a guy if you don't know him. Blind dates are cool, I guess. But don't go on a second date if you don't know a little thing about him. Okay? Guys, don't ask a girl out if you like, well, she just looks pretty, but I don't know anything about her. All of a sudden you go out and you're like, okay, that didn't work. So have an awareness of. In your jobs, take the time to get to know the people that you're going to work for or work with. Because once you're in that job, first nursing job, once you're in that hospital and then you find out, I can't work with that person, you're kind of stuck for a while. Okay, so total commitment, awareness. Number 2, buy-in. It's a willingness to and acceptance, or it's willingness to and acceptance to. So the idea of that in buy-in, this is the good college try. This means, all right, I'm aware of who that person is, so I am going to buy in and I'm going to give total commitment to this. Or I know who this organization is. I see what they're going to do. I'm going to follow the process and the procedures, and I'm going to buy in. The idea that when I gave the talk on productivity at CU Lead, it's the idea that if you're going to buy in, you have to buy in with a system. You can't just go, okay, cool, I'm going to be a part of this team. You've got to buy in with the system, because if it's just, I don't know how people do jobs without writing things down or having lists in some ways. When you do it that way, it's all about you and not about the organization. So you're really not committed to the organization. You're committed to your part of the job. It's important, but it's not total commitment. That's partial commitment. Total commitment is like, how can you do your job in a way that if you got hit by a combine out there today, the job could still happen? How could you do your job today so that if something's going on, you've thought through, man, I need to talk to info and have them do the yellow A-frames, cab, which they do. I need to have them do the yellow A-frames, and I need to talk to them maybe a week beforehand, not the day before. Yeah, it got done and you did your job well, but you put more pressure on other people. Total commitment is not putting more pressure on other people. It's buying in and trusting the process and trusting the system. It's a willingness to and acceptance to. This is the glue of total commitment. So if I think in Scripture, this is when Jesus said to the disciples, and they went to him and said, hey, teacher, where are you staying? He went to those people and he's like, come and see. The awareness was like, okay, this is a cool dude. I think he's seen him do some miracles. The buy-in was, I'm going to step and I'm going to follow him, right? That needs to happen. We don't jump all the way to, it's my responsibility before you've taken the step to go, I'm going to trust this person. Remember, trust is given and trust is earned. So the last part, ownership, which is commitment to. And let me back up real quick on this last one and buy-in. There will be jobs that you have that you hate. Okay, everybody, just be okay with that. There'll be jobs that you don't like. There'll be things in relationships you don't like. It is your job, and there's a guy who works for Disney said this. It's like there are times that I've been given tasks that I don't find interesting. It is my job to figure out what is interesting about that task. So think about that. You will be given jobs in situations, be put in relationships that you don't like. It is your job to struggle, wrestle, and figure out what is the important part of that. That's buy-in. Like, I'm going to work at trying to figure out why is it important to put everything away after an event. Don't get it. Well, I'm going to figure out why that's important. That's your job. Now you go to ownership, and ownership is commitment to. So we've got our awareness, which is you're aware of what's going on in relationships and the job. You've got your buy-in. You've tried it. You're trusting the process. You're following the process. Now it becomes your job, your commitment. And that means, it's a couple simple things. You show up. Once you get your first job, you don't show up, so nursing jobs are 7 to 7, whatever hours you work. Like some of the best nurses that I've seen when my dad was in the hospital, they're coming in at 6:30, they're preparing, they're ready, so that when 7 hits, they're there. I've seen other nurses that have come in, and it's like they're still getting prepared when my dad really needed stuff at 7 o'clock or 7:50. They're still getting through that. In that total commitment, in that ownership part, show up, number one. Number two, don't overcommit. Right now, I bet you that a lot of you in this room have overcommitted. I can say at times I've overcommitted. I've overcommitted at church. I've overcommitted across the street at school. I've overcommitted at Cedarville. I've overcommitted in friendships. The problem is I can't always do that. I got to know where my capacity is. Don't overcommit. So number one, show up. Number two, don't overcommit. And the last one, number three, just be willing to learn. Because you don't know what you don't know. And what's important today might not be important tomorrow. Like, so what's going on in your life right now? Education is important right now, right? Good. Yes. Everybody nod your head. Yes, education's important. Once you get out of school, education's still important. It's a different kind of education. So you've got to understand that your commitment and your total commitment will change based upon the situations that you're in. But it always goes back to awareness, buy-in, ownership, because the goal is, how do we become the best of the best that we can be, not for our glory, but for God's glory, the benefit of others. But the reason why I talk about total commitment this way, if you do it this way, you will have a healthy lifestyle. You will not overcommit. You will not get in situations as much where if you're overcommitted and you'll snap at somebody, or you won't follow through on something because you know what total commitment is. Awareness, buy-in, and ownership.